Welcome one, welcome all to Save Me Jebus, episode 6.
Oh, save me, Jebus!
Today we are covering Moaning Lisa. And I would have to say that this is probably the weakest episode from season 1 thus far. It took what they did in the last episode and just backed away from it. Where last episode was just very silly, having fun with everyone, giving everyone something dumb and silly and lighthearted to do. Where Homer finding Bart crying in the tub could have been potentially a soft moment between the two characters, they brush it off by having Homer blow dry Bart's tears away. In this one, they don't do that. And I don't know if this is because, Bart being a male and being much of a lighthearted, funny character, and Lisa not having yet established herself as potentially the same thing. They try to give Lisa a little bit more depth, but it flounders on it. Because it ultimately just leads up to who cares. Or it wasn't that big of a deal. See, Lisa wakes up extremely sad and with no real reason why. And we'll get into it. We'll get into it once we start the episode. But for now, I don't really think that this episode's that great. But, alright, so hit the music. So we had a couch gag and the chalk scene this episode, unlike the last one. And the chalk gag was, "I will not lead a revolution," which is pretty funny. Just because it was pretty funny, just because of the last episode where Bart led a revolution against Nelson. So it was almost like he got punished for what happened the previous episode. But like I said, I'm not going to continue to rate those because they're not all winners. When I see something potentially funny, I'll make a mention of it. And the couch gag this week it's a 1. It is extremely just a 1 because it's the same joke that's been repeated over and over and over again for the past few episodes. I mean, we're in episode 6 and they haven't done anything but repeat the same joke over and again. And what was it this time? Well, if you watched any of the previous ones, it was just a pop. It was just a pop gag. The family runs into the couch and then it just pops. One of the characters pops. This time it was Maggie. Maggie pops off and lands on Marge. So, yeah, I'm kind of over that gag. I don't want to see it anymore. It's a 1. It's a 1. All right, so like I said, Lisa starts off by staring into the mirror and she's extremely sad. Homer's banging at her to come out of the restroom because he needs to get in there. As soon as Lisa comes out, Bart rushes in and keeps Homer from going in. And then we see Lisa at the kitchen table continuing to look sad and Homer can't find his keys. Bart sends him on a goose chase and Lisa tells him that the keys are on the door lock. Lisa points out that Homer actually just left the keys on the lock outside of the house. I mean, I've done it before. But I don't know if it's a good idea to leave them overnight like that. And then Marge only has 2 cupcakes for the 3 of them. Lisa says that she doesn't want a cupcake because it won't give her any joy. And so Homer and Bart take it and they both see it as a victory. And Lisa takes off. There, later on, she's at school and she's at band practice. And Lisa goes off. She kind of brings the opening to life where she goes into a blues song with the sax. And the teacher tells her to knock it off. And she says that she's just trying to play for the people who are down on their luck. And she gives a few examples, but the teacher wants none of it. He says that none of those awful people are going to be at the recital next week. So you need to stay in line, Lisa. And Lisa just goes back to playing and she's really sad. Later on, we see Homer and Bart playing a boxing game at home. And it's kind of reminiscent of Punch-Out. But this is where the B plot of the story really kicks in. Because while we're looking at a very sad Lisa throughout the majority of the episode, of course, sad Lisa can't carry the entire episode. Because this is our first chance at really seeing Lisa. Before, she's kind of had little snippets in between the episodes, but this is her first episode, and she's sad. I mean, what is she sad about? Nothing really. And as far as this point in the episode, we still don't know what she's sad about. But hey, that's fine, because in the B plot, we have Homer and Bart playing Punch-Out, or something very similar to Punch-Out. Marge interrupts them by saying that there's a note from school bringing us back into the A plot, and Homer thinks it's Bart, but Bart immediately pleads that he's not guilty. It wasn't him, he's innocent, and there's no way it can prove that it was him. Marge says that no, it's not Bart, it's Lisa. And the note reads, Lisa refuses to play dodgeball because she is sad. And there's this funny little moment with Homer where he says, she doesn't look sad. I don't see any tears in her eyes. And Lisa says that, Dad, you wouldn't understand. And Homer says, well, hey, I have feelings too. Like, my stomach hurts. Or, I'm going crazy. Oh, man. And so Lisa says that she wonders what's the point. Would it make a difference if she never existed? How can we sleep at night when there's so much suffering in the world? And Homer's just left stump and tried to baby her by bringing Lisa onto his lap and kind of riding her as a horse, like, giddy up, Lisa, giddy up. This line where Lisa says what she's sad about, that she doesn't understand what's the point. Like, what would it make a difference? I get it. She's a kid. And she's the middle child. We all feel this way sometimes. But like, we don't really even see the cause of it. She just wakes up one day and she's just sad. And that's where us, the audience, begin to see her. And then by the end of the episode, there really is no concrete cause of it. She's just woke up one day and she's sad. And that's kind of what I have a problem with this episode, and why I made it just so difficult to watch, because I really love Lisa. Up to this point, I have loved every single character, from Homer to Maggie and everyone in between, because they've all had really great moments. But Lisa's first episode is just not that. It's just not that engaging. It's kind of a bummer. Like, Lisa tells Homer that, hey, I know that you mean well, and she takes off with Marge. Bart steps in and says, gee, Dad, you sure got a problem on your hands. And Homer orders him to vacuum the floor, because in times of trouble, you gotta go with what you know. And to Bart's dismay, Homer knows punishment. And who does he punish? Bart. Oh, gosh, Bart. Well, hey, if you weren't such a brat, this wouldn't have happened. But after Lisa's bath, Bart and Lisa, they start a little banter about him having to do chores because of her. And Lisa begins to talk smack to Maggie. And Bart says that, hey, leave Maggie alone. She's on my side anyways. And they start a competition about who Maggie loves best. And they start to try to get them to go to her. And Bart never gives up. He's like, come here, Maggie, come here. And then Lisa, after some time, she was like, oh, just go with Bart. I know you're going to go there anyways. And Maggie, drum roll please. She goes to the television. Maggie loves the television the best. And that's just amazing. So Homer still can't beat Bart at boxing. And Bart's playing with one hand, and Homer is just way too intense. When Bart tells him, like, gee, Dad, you're really bad at this, he blames Lisa's sax, and he goes up to shut her up. Lisa starts crying. And instead of blow drying her tears away, he tells her that it's okay. I mean, I get it. You can't repeat the same joke, but you can't do that same joke here either, because, we did establish that in this episode, Lisa is just sad, right? And so you tell her that it's okay. So Lisa just starts to finger her keys on the saxophone and doesn't play anymore. But she hears some sax music playing outside the window, and she goes in search of it. And there she finds the jazz man. But before they actually meet, we cut back to Marge having a dream of her mom making her smile. And Marge's mom says something like, all right, Marjorie, you need to smile because people know how good of a mom you have by the size of your smile. That's just so awful. I can't imagine that actually being told to anybody. And Homer, on the other hand, he's having a dream about Bart kicking his butt at boxing. It's the same models from the video game, but now we just have Homer and Bart's face attached to them more directly. And Homer and Marge wake up, And Homer says something like, "Getting old is terrible. The saddest day of my life was when I realized that I could beat my dad at most things." And Bart experiences that at age 4. All right. All right, Homer. Yeah. I guess Bart is the sucker. Oh, Bart is the poor sap in this situation. But Marge acknowledges that Maggie needs a lot of attention and that Bart is such a handful, so Lisa is growing up without their attention. Now, Homer sums this up as an underwear thing because Marge says something like, "Our little Lisa is becoming a woman right under our noses." So, of course, Homer, just being the typical male, just assumes that it is a menstrual cycle thing or something. But then we cut back to Lisa actually getting lessons from the jazz man, who introduces himself as Bleeding Gums because he's never been to the dentist. Now, they both got problems, and Bleeding Gums says that he can't help her, but he can jam with her. And they both start singing the blues. Bleeding Gums and Lisa, they both begin jamming with their saxophones. Eventually, Bleeding Gums starts singing, and I didn't really pay attention to what he said. But when it came down to Lisa, now Lisa says, she starts making mention about how her dad is really dumb, that he might as well be a caveman or something, and how her brother is really, really bratty, and that her mom gave away her last cupcake away, even though she volunteered it away. I mean, she's a kid. Of course. What she really wanted was just somebody to be like, no, Lisa, we insist, you take it. I get that. I get it. But as a viewer, I'm also like, she didn't give it away. It just wasn't enough. And you volunteered it out. Whatever. And the line ends with, she's the saddest kid in grade number 2. And I love that. It was really good. And Bleeding Gums makes mention, Lisa plays good for someone with no real problems. And that's exactly what's wrong with Lisa this episode. It's just that there is no real problems. Bleeding Gums is the one who points it out. And while it's mildly annoying, it's also very realistic. It's also annoyingly how realistic it is, because sometimes we just wake up and we're just sad and we don't know why. But Jesus, oh man. And so Lisa says that she doesn't really feel any better, and Bleeding Gums says, well, the blues aren't about feeling better, it's about making people feel worse and taking their money. Now, Marge picks up Lisa, and she says, Get away from that jazz man. There's nothing personal, Mr. Jazzman, but I just fear the unknown, or the unfamiliar. And so the next day, Marge is really upset. She tells Bart, do you think that you're nice enough to your sister? And he says, oh yeah, easily. She says, no, be nicer to your sister. So Bart tries to cheer up Lisa by making the second Mo crank call. And the joke is, I'm looking for a jockstrap. Yeah. Oh man, but Bart is the only one who's laughing. And so Homer, kind of going back to the B plot, Homer goes to the arcade to practice. And he goes to the guy who's in charge of the quarters. He's like, hey, give me some quarters. I'm doing my laundry. And he's like, yeah, right. If I were you, I would really use those quarters for laundry. And so Homer, he goes out in search of a sensei, and he finds one in about a 10-year-old who's just about the size of Bart. And he says that he'll teach Homer if he barks like a dog. And Homer, against his wishes, does it anyways. So they play until Homer's out of quarters, and the kid's mom picks him up and scolds him for playing video games, and she tries to shame Homer too. And Homer's like, whatever, and he just takes off. But he's ready. Oh man, he is so ready to challenge Bart, because whatever the kid taught him, it was enough. So then we cut back to the A plot, and Marge is trying some of that motherly manipulation that she received from her mom. And here's a clip.
Now Lisa, listen to me. This is important. I want you to smile today.
But I don't feel like smiling.
Well, it doesn't matter how you feel inside, you know. It's what shows up on the surface that counts. That's what my mother taught me. Take all your bad feelings and push them down, all the way down, past your knees until you're almost walking on them. And then you'll fit in, and you'll be invited to parties, and boys will like you, and happiness will follow.
Now, Marge goes back on her word when she sees Lisa smiling to her classmates, and then immediately they try to take advantage of her. And the teacher comes and says something really jerkish as well, upsets Marge, and grabs her and takes her away. And Marge apologizes to Lisa. She says, I take it back. If you want to be sad, we'll write it out with you. From now on, I'll be doing the smiling for you. And Lisa smiles for real. And Lisa feels better. Now, to finish off with the B plot. Oh man, here we are. It's Homer versus Bart, the final rematch. And Homer's practice is paying off as he's kicking Bart's butt in boxing. Oh man, Bart cannot land a strike on Homer. Oh man, and just as Homer's about to win, Marge yet again interrupts. And Homer's not having it this time. Oh no, he says, "Quiet, Marge, this is my big moment." And Marge disconnects the game. And Homer just starts bawling because he could have beat Bart. This was his opportunity. Just when he had Bart, it just flew away from him. And Bart uses this opportunity to retire from the world of video boxing as the undefeated champ. And Homer just bawls his eyes out. And the episode ends with the family watching Bleeding Gums perform Lisa's song during their jam. And everything is better, I guess. This episode was okay. It just wasn't great. Lisa's plot about being the saddest kid just feels a little unfounded, and there's just not an exact reason for her feeling the way that she does. Of course, there isn't a cause to it, and because of that, it just feels shallow in a sense. But that's kind of the point, that sometimes when we're young, we just feel sad for no reason. When Bleeding Gums points it out that she's good at jazz for someone without any real problems, it's just, I guess that's just the point. Marge stepping in and defending her from the school kids, and the teacher suggests that that's the cause, but that's not actually the cause at all. It's just what Marge witnessed. And suddenly, just this moment, right now, I figured it out. Lisa just wanted some attention. She just wanted to be acknowledged by her family. She just wanted somebody to give her the cupcake. She just wanted somebody to hug her and tell her that it's okay. She just wanted Marge to defend her from the school kids and the jerk teacher. She just wanted somebody to pay attention to her as the middle child. And I caught it all the way at the last minute. Oh well. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye, cha. Oh wait, hold on, no. So the B plot about Homer wanting to beat Bart at boxing just feels more like what we saw last week, and I like that. It was especially gratifying to see Homer go to the arcade and take lessons from a kid. It's so dumb, it's so ridiculous, but hey, it works, and I appreciate that because it's so good. But next week on The Simpsons, it's The Call of the Simpsons. The Simpsons put the wild back in the wilderness when their TV goes over a cliff and Homer and Bart go for help, and when they return without any clothes. I kind of remember this one, but we'll talk about that next week. Bye, cha.